Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Sustainable Healthcare Update call. Today is the 27th of May 2020. My name is Phil Steiner. I'm with Bellevue Asset Management. It's been a few days ago in May 2020 where our semi-annual portfolio adjustment of the Sustainable Healthcare Strategy took place. In today's update call, Saide Donat, portfolio manager of the BB Adamant Sustainable Healthcare Fund, will talk about the current situation, why combining healthcare with ESG makes sense, portfolio characteristics, and will give us some company examples. The BB Adamant Sustainable Healthcare Fund is a Luxembourg-registered UCITS fund with daily NAV, and at its launch in 2018, it was all over the press being the first sustainable healthcare fund. Since January 1st, 2020, the stock markets were characterized by significant uncertainty. In this tense environment, the healthcare sector has proven to be a safe haven. Our Sustainable Healthcare Fund has shown both absolute and relative strength on a year-to-date basis. Saide will elaborate why this is the case. And having said that, I'm excited to hand over to Saide.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Phil. Dear listeners, I hope you and your family are still in good health. We start with slide 5 with the current performance situation since the start of the year in euro. On the left side, you find a summary of some winners and losers in one illustration. There is no industry that is not affected by the virus crisis, positive or negative. In the worst weeks of the corona crisis, the health sector has held up remarkably well, traditionally serving its defensive role. In addition, this is because investors are hoping for effective therapeutic options coming soon. By contrast, business in cyclical sectors, and I'm here referring to the orange block, almost comes to a standstill. Since the beginning of the year, the share price losses have remained in the double-digit percentage range. At the bottom left of the figure, you can see our fund in dark green, the BB Adamant Sustainable Healthcare, which during this turbulent period had a very good absolute and relative performance in euro against its benchmark, which is the MSCI World Healthcare. We outperformed by 6%. How does it look like in a chart? On page 6, we compared our fund directly with its benchmark, but also with the broad share index, the MSCI World. There are many reasons for the outperformance of over 6%, respectively 17% when you compare against the broader market with comparatively low volatility. One reason is healthcare has a very low economic sensitivity because health products are indispensable and are even bought in an economic contraction or prescribed by doctors. The sector also benefits from structural growth drivers. In addition to that, we rely on innovative, profitable, and high-growth companies with an exceptional competitive situation in the selection process. The cyclical component in the fund is very low. That's another reason. And the last point I would like to mention here is the solid balance sheet structures and stable cash flows of the portfolio companies. Half of the medical research world is working on a solution against COVID-19. In order to survive the pandemic, not only vaccines, existing medicines, but also new approaches are being tested and developed. Portfolio companies of the Sustainable Health Fund are and have been active also in this area. For example, Actemra, actually a remedy for rheumatism, attracts a lot of attention in the medication sector. The Japanese pharmaceutical giant Chugai, you can see on the right side, together with its partner Roche, is testing this IL-6 antibody for the effectiveness of the hyperinflammatory reaction caused by COVID-19. And this is the second leading cause of death. This drug has already been approved for emergency use in China because it has helped treat seriously ill COVID-19 patients. Currently, a phase 3 study in the US, but also in Europe, is ongoing. We should also not forget that worldwide hospital equipment suppliers and diagnostic companies also play a key role in the fight against corona. New Zealand's Fisher Paykel, for example, is experiencing increased demand for respiratory care products. Then the last topic I would like to mention, this is telemedicine, which is diagnostic from distance, is experiencing a strong upswing due to the enormous need. The portfolio companies include the two managed care companies, Cigna and Centene from the US. Many investors became increasingly aware of the healthcare sector due to the virus crisis. But why is the sector worth a look even without the pandemic? This will show you slide 9. At 5%, the industry is growing twice as long as the global gross national product in the long term. Three fundamental developments underpin the health megatrend, and these are the following three pillars: demographic, lifestyle, and innovation. The innovative strength is a great constant, for example, in the subsectors such as biotech with the gene therapy or medtech with robotics, and gives these companies enormous earnings potential. Even in the current period of crisis, the biomedical innovative power of healthcare companies remains unbroken. You can see on slide 10 a table between April 13 and May 18 this year. Approximately 450 preclinical and clinical trials with medicines and vaccines have been registered. The intensity of the research, but also the rapid progress, give the hope that the time until the discovery of effective treatment options against the coronavirus and its market entry will be as short as possible. For some companies, this acceleration is already clearly visible. The prime example here is Moderna. That's a biotech company from the US, which started as the first of this year to test a vaccine candidate on healthy volunteers. The company developed its vaccine based on messenger ribonucleic acid, also known as mRNA, in a record time of just a few weeks. This stimulates the production of viral proteins against which the body produces antibodies. Certain topics on the roadmap of a sustainable health system are highly topical in this difficult environment. This is about the 5 subjects on page 11, which is also shown in our standard presentation. What are the topics? On the one hand, it is about prevention. The corona pandemic has revealed that prevention can lead to success. Prevention does not only include vaccines, but also the provision of protective measures such as masks, disinfectants, and gloves. The second point is about the speed and the extent of efforts worldwide to find an effective remedy for the virus. Initiatives are not only sought alone, but countless collaborations across borders have been announced during this time. The topic of diagnostics also comes into focus. South Korea, for example, was able to get the spread of the coronavirus under control by mass tests in an international comparison. Telemedicine is very popular right now, that's a fact. Governments, specialized companies in this area, as well as insurers, are increasingly promoting the use of this technology because it is very efficient and cost-saving. Accordingly, the White House recently announced the expansion of telehealth services for Medicare policyholders. In our view, telemedicine will continue to have in the future, also under normal circumstances, a special place in the healthcare sector. And last but not least, there is the issue of access to medicine. That's the last point, which is an ongoing debate in the healthcare sector. While research is being carried out on a variety of fronts, like a race under high pressure, the question naturally arises, will those medical products that prove to become effective also available around the world. Gilead, for example, is exemplary in this regard and will allow and support others to replicate remdesivir. The biotech company has done licensing agreements with 5 generic companies for the manufacture of the antiviral drug in 127 countries outside of the US. Emerging markets like India and Pakistan also belong to this group of countries. To conclude this slide, these examples show how sustainable the healthcare sector already is as a topic. Now we are focusing on ESG. The graphic on page 12 shows the trend that the global investment volume in sustainable strategies has increased very strongly. In our view, this development can be attributed to 2 different reasons. One, there are customers who act out of conviction. Here, the topic of sustainability is met with great interest. The second reason is obligation, due to increasing legal requirements. And to meet the wishes of these growing investors, we launched the first healthcare topic fund in 2018 based on sustainable criteria. We think that our fund solution addresses both customer groups because we combine the best of 2 worlds, which is healthcare on the one side and on the other side ESG. Another interesting finding from the illustration here is the number of signatories to the PRI initiative, which has been growing steadily since 2006. And also Bellevue Asset Management is involved since 2019. Page 13 shows on the left side the union of healthcare with sustainability. For those of you who don't know our fund concept yet, I would like to explain it shortly. Conceptually, the BB Adamant Sustainable Healthcare Fund is managed according to the successfully managed Adamant Healthcare Index methodology. However, there is a very central difference here, and that is the ESG filter. In the selection process, the stocks are first subject to a sustainability assessment. Here, we rely on the long-standing expertise of Sustainalytics, which is our partner. In order to enter the fund portfolio, companies must meet several criteria. First, they should be among the most sustainable pioneers in their industry, and here I'm referring to the best-in-class approach. They shouldn't been involved in serious ESG relevant violations and be compliant with the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact. In the case of controversial business areas and practices, earnings thresholds are defined for inclusion. Before the portfolio is constructed, a factor analysis is carried out according to qualitative and quantitative criteria and then ranked according to the best. The analysis results in a portfolio structure consisting of 40 most sustainable stocks, of which 10 best per region. So we have Western Europe, North America, Japan, Oceania, and emerging market in our fund. In the past, there was a focus on mid-caps and an underweight position in pharma and North America region relative to the MSCI World Healthcare Index due to the 8 factors identified. The rebalancing takes place on a 6-monthly basis. Before I go into the new portfolio characteristics, I would like to say a few words about the successfully completed period. On page 15, you can see the 10 best titles above, which made a very good contributions to the overall performance. The first 3 titles in particular increased in the double-digit percentage range between the 5th November 2019 and the 5th May this year. The biotech company Exelixis, for example, and its partner Bristol Myers from the US presented good data in a phase 3 trial of Cabometyx combined with Opdivo in kidney cancer. And this is the third most common urological tumor disease. On Ambu, I will come back later to what the company has benefited from, and we have still this company in our fund. During the rebalancing, we adjusted this weight accordingly to the regional weight. And the high flyer Microport, the backgrounds here for the strong increase in value of almost 113% in the local currency are diverse. In particular, I would like to use an example to show you why this company is no longer in the fund. You remember we have a rule-based approach. This means if a company is not in the top 10 within a region every 6 months, it falls out. Only the proud valuation was the reason for the sale of Microport, except for the continued solid business performance, even in a phase that is somewhat more difficult. The table below shows which heavily weighted companies are in the benchmark that has eaten performance from a relative perspective. J&J, for example, is the largest position with roughly 7%. Because an investment spoke against J&J for fundamental reasons, we lost around 1.1%. Although we have been not involved in the defensive heavyweights, we were able to more than compensate this with mid-cap stocks. In the new period, we had 11 company changes. The properties of the new portfolio construction can be found on the next page. We start with market capitalization. On the left, you can see our approach in a pie chart, so the BB Adamant Sustainable Healthcare Fund, and then on the right, the MSCI World Healthcare. We have around 50% mid caps and roughly 48% large caps in the fund. The benchmark, on the other hand, has with roughly 89% large caps, so blue chip values that are defensive but have slight growth potential. On the next page, you can see the subsector allocation. We have a significant underweight in the pharma sector, which is one of the most important messages in our methodology. The reason is pharma companies has lack of organic growth potential, and this has to be bought through M&A. The strong overweight in the generic subsector relative to the benchmark should also be emphasized here, because generics and biosimilar manufacturers are very inexpensive, so they are cheap, and the same applies to the services area. The Sustainable Health Fund has slightly more exposure to medtech than the MSCI World Healthcare. Proportionally, these are more companies from Japan, Europe, and emerging markets. From a currency perspective, the portfolio is highly diversified as shown on slide 18. The US region is with 35% underweighted compared to the MSCI World Healthcare Index. There, so in the benchmark, the US dollar share is about 70% roughly and has remained constant in terms of history. The total exposure in Asia should also be emphasized here. So if we add up the currencies Hong Kong dollar, Japanese yen, Korean won, we get 33%, almost the same as the US dollar share in the portfolio. We believe that the regional diversification just described, but also the breakdown by healthcare subsectors, is a good differentiator to other funds. And then if you look at the valuation of our portfolio, you can see on slide 19 on the right side, the aggregate sales growth estimated at 13.2% over the next 3 years. At 26.2%, the EBITDA margin is extremely attractive. The fund portfolio has a PEC ratio of 1.2, which is not too expensive, especially when a comparison is made with the broad market. The largest country weighting with 35% is US in the fund and has a PEC ratio of 0.5. On the other side, the S&P 500, for example, has a PEC of 3.8. So this comparison shows that healthcare is a bargain in the US. Today, we also brought you a few portfolio examples. The entire sustainability assessment according to Sustainalytics is shown on the right-hand side of the related slides. And these companies, but also the other companies in the fund, met the ESG criteria of our investment process. The first example is about the Danish king of antibody, and that is Genmab. The company's main product is Darzalex, which is approved for multiple myeloma, a cancer of the bone marrow. The broad pipeline here in the field of oncology contains other existing candidates with blockbuster potential. Another example is Ambu. That's a Danish medtech company, and this company has gained 95% in local currency since the beginning of the year. And the reason is the crisis was or is still a catalyst. Because the high number of COVID-19 patients makes it impossible to clean and disinfect the used endoscopes quickly enough, the FDA actively recommends that the single-use endoscope of Ambu should be used for lung examinations. Due to this special situation, the medtech company experienced increased demand from the existing customer pool, but the company was also able to gain new customer orders, especially in Europe. Then the last company I would like to mention, this is Invasive, which is a new position in the fund. The medtech company from the US has a leading position in the field of lateral minimally invasive spine surgery. In order to relieve the hospitals and keep them free for COVID-19 patients, all surgeries, admissions, and interventions that can be planned have been postponed. But this measure was relaxed with the low rate of new infections. So a stabilizing effect on the business development of device manufacturer such as Invasive, which depends on elective surgery, should appear in the third quarter of this year. At the end of our presentation today, I would like to summarize the most important points on a slide. Resistant to crisis and still growing strongly, these are the advantages of the healthcare sector. The BB Adermann Sustainable Healthcare Fund held up remarkably well in an exceptionally volatile time. With a global approach in a combination of ESG factors, and here we have a pioneering role, we were able to demonstrate both absolute and relative strength with a high proportion of mid-caps and little pharma. That was my part. Thank you very much for your attention. Now I hand over the words back to Phil.
Thank you very much, Saida. Very interesting indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you would like to subscribe units of the fund, find the corresponding ISINs on page 28. At this point, let me say thank you for your trust in Bellevue Asset Management. In case of any further questions or feedback, do not hesitate to contact your point of entry at Bellevue. We're happy to be here for you and look forward to your questions and feedback. Stay safe and goodbye, your Bellevue team.